Global Wanderings of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda once said, I have a message to the West as Buddha had a message to the East. The special features of his message were universality and harmony. Verily, he served as a bridge between East and the West. In his travels around the globe, he met many who were transformed by his inspiring words. Swami Vivekananda visited China and Japan on his way to America. He was convinced that Bengal and China had at one time been in close communication, that there must have been a great influx into China of Bengali monks who brought to that distant country the gospel of the Buddha, and that Indian thought had influenced Chinese civilization to a significant extent. He was much impressed at the sight of the various remains of Indian religious influences in Chinese and Japanese temples. In China, he found to his amazement Sanskrit manuscripts, and in Japan Sanskrit mantras written in old Bengali script. In fact, everywhere in China and Japan, his attention was attracted by all that might confirm his hypothesis alike of the religious influence of ancient India over the empires of the Far East and of the spiritual unity of Asia. Swami Vivekananda went to America to represent Hinduism at the Parliament of Religions to be held at Chicago. However, he had no credentials and learned that without that he would not be able to participate in the Parliament. Meanwhile, he came in contact with Professor John Henry Wright of Harvard University, who invited him to speak at the university. On learning that the Swami lacked credentials to speak at the Chicago Parliament, he said, "To ask you, Swami, for your credentials is like asking the sun about its right to shine." Later, Swamiji himself wrote, "He urged upon me the necessity of going to the Parliament of Religions, which he thought would give an introduction to the nation." At the Parliament of Religions, Swami Vivekananda touched the very soul of American people. No sooner had he addressed the assembly as "Sisters and Brothers of America," a great wave of enthusiasm went through the audience. They rose to their feet with shouts of applause. For 2 full minutes he attempted to speak, but the wild enthusiasm of the audience would not allow it. Others had addressed them in the customary manner, but Swamiji had touched the deepest chord of their heart by discarding formality and stressing the kinship of all people. After the applause subsided, the Swami made a brief speech. The audience was thrilled to hear his message and welcomed him with sustained and thunderous applause. Swamiji declared to his audience, "Children of immortal bliss, what a sweet, what a hopeful name. Allow me to call you, brethren, by that sweet name, heirs of immortal bliss. Yeah, the Hindu refuses to call you sinners. Ye are the children of God, the sharers of immortal bliss, holy and perfect beings. Ye divinities on earth, sinners, it is a sin to call a man so. It is a standing libel on human nature. Come up, O lions, and shake off the delusions that you are sheep. Your souls immortal, spirits free, blessed and eternal. Ye are not matter, ye are not bodies. Matter is your servant, not you the servant of matter." Amidst his busy schedule of preaching in the West, Swami Vivekananda spent some days in Ridgely Manor. There he took painting lessons from Maud Stump, who later became a famous artist. She also drew a portrait of the Swami. She reminisced, we shall none of us hear its like again." His views were, his views were those of a perfectly normal and natural being with a spiritual nature equal to the other. The words that he had said were like a song, impossible to repeat, but of so clear a meaning that they were very stuff of life itself. When he had finished, he rose and amid perfect stillness took his departure, the ideal of a holy man. Sister Nivedita was the dedicated disciple of Swami Vivekananda. Her contribution to the promotion of our natural consciousness is immeasurable. Swamiji met her in London. Inspired by his teachings, she decided to dedicate her life for the promotion of education amidst Indian women. Through divine will, the school she started became the nucleus of the future Sri Sharda Math, the first independent monastic order for women. He wrote this poem to her, indicating the future role which she would play in India and earn the name Lokamata, Mother of People. The mother's heart, the hero's will, the sweetness of the southern breeze, the sacred charm and strength that dwell on Aryan altars, flaming free, all these be yours and many more. No ancient soul could dream before. Be thou to India's future son, the mistress, servant, friend in one. Leon Landsberg was the second American Swami Vivekananda initiated in Thousand Island Park in 1895. He became Swami Kripananda. Landsberg's services to the Swami were immense and significant. However, because of his restless and immature nature, he created trouble for himself and others. Finally, he left the Swami. Swamiji, however, called him one of the most sincere souls he ever met and had an affection for him as a father has for his erring son. I went to the glacier of Mount Rosa yesterday and gathered a few hardy flowers growing almost in the midst of eternal snow. I send you one in this letter, hoping that you will attain to a similar spiritual hardihood amidst all the snow and ice of his earthly life. A few days ago, I felt a sudden irresistible desire to write to Kripananda. Perhaps he was unhappy and thinking of me. I went to the glacier of Mount Rosa yesterday and gathered a few hardy flowers growing almost in the midst of eternal snow. I send you one in this letter, hoping that you will attain to a similar spiritual hardihood amidst all the snow and ice of this earthly life. A few days ago, I felt a sudden irresistible desire to write to Kripananda. Perhaps he was unhappy and thinking of me. So I wrote him a warm letter. Today from the American news, I see why it was so. I sent him flowers gathered near the glaciers. Ask Miss Waldo to send him some money and plenty of love. Love never dies. The love of the Father never dies, whatever the children may do or be. He is my child. He has the same or more share in my love and help now that he is in misery. One day a Western disciple requested Swami Vivekananda to bless the photo of a child Jesus seated in the lap of Sistine Madonna. The Swami, out of reverence, refused to give his blessings to the picture. Instead, he silently saluted the feet of the divine child. On another occasion, he answered with emotion to an enquiry, "Had I lived in Palestine in the days of Jesus of Nazareth, I would have washed his feet not with my tears, but with my heart's blood." Swamiji once had a curious dream on his return voyage from England. While the ship was still on her way to Port Said, an old and bearded man appeared before him and said, Observe well this place that I show to you. You are now in the island of Crete. This is the land in which Christianity began. In support, the speaker gave two words, one of which was therapeuto, and showed both words to be derived direct from Sanskrit roots. Sister Nivedita believed that the second word was Essene. It is believed that Jesus belonged to the Essene tradition. Swami Vivekananda stayed for 7 weeks in Thousand Islands where he taught the highest philosophy of Vedanta to a selected group of sincere disciples. When he departed, he said, I bless these 1,000 islands. Much later, he commented, I was at my best at 1,000 islands. Excerpts from Inspired Talks which the Swami taught at 1,000 islands. There is no possibility of ever having pleasure without pain, good without evil, for living itself is just the lost equilibrium. What we want is freedom, not life, nor pleasure, nor good. The struggle to regain the balance is eternal. Life and death are only different names for the same fact, the two sides of the one coin. Beyond this is the true nature, the Atman. Swami Vivekananda was a prophet. He was not confined to any particular place or people. He was universal. He himself wrote in a letter, by 2 p.m. today I reach Port Said. Asia once more. From Suez begins Asia. Once more Asia. What am I? Asiatic, European or American? I feel a curious medley of personalities in me. Mrs. Mary C. Funke wrote in her reminiscences of her August 1899 voyage to America with Swami Vivekananda. Those were wonderful evenings. The master paced up and down the deck, a majestic figure in the moonlight, stopping now and then to speak to us of the beauties of nature. And if all this Maya is so beautiful, think of the wondrous beauty of the reality behind it, he would exclaim. One especially fine evening when the moon was at the full and softly mellow and golden, a night of mystery and enchantment, he stood silently for a long time drinking in the beauty of the scene. Suddenly he turned to us and said, why recite poetry when there is the very essence of poetry? Once a disciple attempted to take the Swami to sightseeing. Swamiji responded, do not show me sights. I have seen the Himalayas. I would not go 10 steps to see sights, but I would go 1,000 miles to see a human being. Swamiji wrote about France. To understand Europe, one has to understand her through France, the fountainhead of everything that is highest in the West. Paris is the center of Western civilization. Here in Paris matures and ripens every idea of Western ethics, manners and customs, light or darkness, good or evil. A picturesque country, neither very cold nor very warm, very fertile, weather neither excessively wet nor extremely dry, sky clear, sun sweet, elms and oak in abundance, grasslands charming, hills and rivers small, springs delightful. Everywhere and in everything there is an attempt at beauty, an attempt at art, remarkable and effected with success too. The Paris University is the model of European universities. Again, France is the home of liberty. A parliament of religions was organized at the Paris Exposition in 1900. Swamiji learnt French in a short time and spoke in French at the conference. The Indian Mirror reported that the Swami delivered a very impressive and eloquent speech in French at Paris. The Indian Mirror reported that the Swami delivered a very impressive and eloquent speech in French at Paris. Mrs. Alice Hansborough, a devoted disciple and assistant of Swami Vivekananda, reminisces, "You have seen that photo of Swamiji in a picnic group that was taken on top of that hill. We would make up a party. Naturally, the talk was always on spiritual subjects. On one of these picnics, a young woman was arguing with him that we should teach people to be good. Swamiji smiled and waved his hand to indicate the trees and the countryside. Why should I desire to be good? He asked. All this is his handiwork. Shall I apologize for his handiwork? If you want to reform John Doe, go and live with him. Don't try to reform him. If you have any of the divine fire, he will catch it." There was one occasion in particular. Swamiji became absorbed in some subject he was discussing, and he talked for 6 hours without interruption, from 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. The air was just vibrant with spirituality by the time it was over.